here in the United States. He says, again, so I would be very cautious about protecting the rule of law. He says, it will be a sacrifice. What he means is if you give up the rule of law, if you give up law in order to have a little extra security, he says, that is a sacrifice you will be sorry for. And he is absolutely right. This is the most crucial issue of our time, and Ron Paul is issuing a red alert warning in this. He says, we now know that Americans are vulnerable to assassination because the White House can come up with an assassination list and just take out an American citizen without any due process whatsoever. Do you realize the magnitude of this, people? I'm hoping that you're really tuning in and really listening to this, because look, before 1776, before America had its independence, we had the British occupying forces over here in North America, and they were speaking the same kind of words that the globalists like Newt Gingrich are speaking today. They said, we're in a state of war, therefore you have no rights, we will interrogate you, you have no right to maintain your silence, you have no right to privacy, we will conduct illegal searches and seizures, we will force you to quarter and house the soldiers and feed them and pay them money. We will force you to do all these things because we are the British Empire and because we're in a state of war. Apparently, Newt Gingrich now thinks that same kind of thinking should be the rules that are followed here in America today. Don't you realize, people, the Bill of Rights was created to prevent that? Even the Third Amendment was about preventing us from having to be forced to quarter British soldiers in our homes, okay? The Fourth Amendment, the First, the Second, on down the list. The reason they are there is because we do not want to be ruled by tyrants who declare a state of war. Stay with us here on the Alex Jones Show. We got a lot more coming right back. Stay with us, all right? Happy Thanksgiving, everybody, and welcome back to the Alex Jones Show. I'm Mike Adams, the health ranger, filling in for Alex today. He's on the road, returning to Austin shortly, and will resume his regular duties here on the show. In the meantime, we're filling in. We've been talking about Ron Paul during the debates, and thank you again for staying tuned to the Alex Jones Show. We've got Paul Craig Roberts coming up in just, what is that, about 8 minutes, 9 minutes, something like that. And we're going to be talking about the tyranny that is taking over America today and the concept of trickle-down tyranny, which is what happens when all the local little bureaucrats and power people, they witness what's happening at the federal level, and they think, oh, it must be socially acceptable now to just act like a thug and act like a tyrant. And they replicate that, they mimic that, they shape that behavior and become their own little local tyrants. All right, but getting back to Ron Paul and the debate, I got to say, I'm trying to say happy Thanksgiving, but also at the same time warn you, this may be your last free Thanksgiving. In other words, your last Thanksgiving as a free citizen. If we don't get Ron Paul and that kind of philosophy into positions of power in this country, if we end up being ruled by globalists, you're going to be, next Thanksgiving, you're going to be looking back at this Thanksgiving and asking yourself, what the heck happened? What happened to our Bill of Rights? What happened to our freedoms? What happened to our bank accounts? What happened to our futures? Because Ron Paul is right. He's the only guy there that makes any sense. And I got to say, I am honored today to be here hosting the Alex Jones Show and to be part of the InfoWars effort to enlighten people, to awaken people, because we want to prevent tyranny and prevent the enslavement of the people. We want freedom and we want peace. All right, Ron Paul wants to bring those soldiers home and close those bases where we are meddling with the foreign affairs of these other nations. Bring those soldiers home and have peace and have our family together. Wouldn't that be nice, to have a Thanksgiving and a Christmas with your family where you don't have TSA searching your underwear at the airport, where you don't have TSA checkpoints on the road as you're traveling from place to place in what's supposed to be a free country. Let me read you a couple more quotes from Ron Paul. In responding to a question about where Newt Gingrich says that we got to have more police and we got to have more security. Again, I'm paraphrasing, but he's saying we got to have the Patriot Act, even, give it even more power. Ron Paul says in response to that, this is like saying we need a policeman in every house, a camera in every house because we want to prevent wife beating. If you advocate the police state, yes, you can have security and you might prevent a crime, but the crime will then be against the American people and against our freedoms. And he's absolutely right about that. You can keep clamping down. You can put police on every corner. You can have checkpoints on every interstate and every highway. You can hire government thugs to feel you up and feel you down and put you down in every airport and every football stadium and every church and every school in the country. But you won't stop terrorism and you won't have any freedom left. That's the truth of the matter. And if you don't get that out there, folks, if you don't get this point, then I'm sorry, you are going down with the end of freedom in America today. You need to wake up. And Ron Paul says that. He's got a quote. He says, this is a road to disaster when he's talking about military spending. He says, we'd better wake up. If we don't wake up, this is all history. The Bill of Rights is about to become history. Your Fourth Amendment rights are eroding at an astonishing rate. It is very, very concerning. And I stand here, well, I sit here in Alex Jones' chair today, but I stand here firmly on this principle that we must restore the rights that made this country great, that we must get the government out of our lives, out of our pants, off of our highways, out of our homes, stop with the secret surveillance. We've got more news about surveillance going on here. Did you know that stores now, retailers on Black Friday, coming up in just 2 days, they're going to be tracking you by monitoring your cell phone signals as you move from store to store? Yeah, I'm not making this up, folks. Search this online if you don't believe me. They're going to be tracking you moving from point to point, and they think it's all okay. Why? Because, again, trickle-down tyranny. If the federal government is monitoring everything that you're doing and reading your emails and monitoring your Facebook posts and checking you on the highway, why shouldn't the local retailers do it too? Why shouldn't everybody do it? Let's all just become a police state of tattletales and Janet Napolitano spy masters who spy on each other and run around paranoid. Oh my goodness, the retailers are tracking us. It must be good. Maybe they're going to give us a coupon for 50 cents off an iPad, which will also track you as you carry it around your home. Yeah, it's all coming up. Stay with us here on the Alex Jones Show. We'll be right back after this break with Paul Craig Roberts and much more. Don't go away. We are back on the Alex Jones Show. Thank you and happy Thanksgiving. Yeah, it was an inside job. All those FBI terror plots that are now being used to justify discussions about expanding the Patriot Act even more. Lock it in long term. Hey, who needs a Bill of Rights, huh? It only worked for a couple hundred years. Let's ditch it now, I guess, is what these people are thinking. Unbelievable. We do have Paul Craig Roberts coming up here in just a couple of minutes, but quick, before then, we're going to cover a little bit of news. Bring that graphic back up. BPA spikes 1,200% after eating canned soup. For those of you watching on Prisonplanet.tv, you can see the visuals here. A new study shows that people who ate canned soup for 5 days straight saw their urinary levels of the chemical bisphenol A. That's the hormone mimicking chemical that has a lot of people concerned about cancer. Ooh, a little bit of breast augmentation for males there. Not something that a lot of people want to do, understandably. That spikes 1,200%. BPA 1,200% higher in the blood of those who are eating canned soup for 5 days straight. This is the first study to quantify BPA levels in humans after the ingestion of canned foods. Now, here's an interesting fact. You may not know about this. There is no such thing as a canned food that has a liner in it which is free of BPA. To my knowledge, I checked. We called all the major can manufacturers throughout the industry to ask, is there a liner and enamel inside cans that is free of BPA? And the answer we were told is no such thing at the moment, but they're working feverishly on it. But then the other question is, what other chemicals are going to be in there besides the BPA? See, maybe it's BPA free in the future, but it's got some other chemical that we don't even know about yet. Just make up 3 random letters, C, K, J. That's going to be the next chemical that they find in these cans. It all gets back to the basics, folks. If you eat food out of your own garden, if you practice some home gardening and a little bit of permaculture and you eat that food, you're always going to be better off than eating something out of a can. We've got from the American Dream, 20 signs that America is going crazy. Is this posted up on InfoWars, guys? I bet it is. 20 more signs. Yeah, it's up there. Got a confirmation on that. Check it out. You know it's going crazy when you see presidential candidates up on stage who are debating, and all of them except one say that we don't need a Bill of Rights as long as some president says we might be in a war. Doesn't make any sense. U.S. and Arab states set to impose a no-fly zone over Syria. This is Paul Joseph Watson article, now posted on Infowars.com. It always starts with the no-fly zone, doesn't it? Yep. And then it becomes a no-life zone as they start with the depleted uranium bombing, another weapon of mass destruction that is being used by the military to make life unlivable in some of these target zones for not just a couple of years, but a couple of tens, hundreds of thousands of years in some cases. Here's another article in Russia Today. The West's fixation on Assad eclipses bloody chaos in Egypt. This is all just more beating the war drums, getting ready for action in Iran and Syria and somewhere else. Hey, we saw, what was this? Janet Napolitano and then the Department of Homeland Security put out a warning about Turkey. And I don't mean the country, Turkey. I thought it was going to be a terror alert about maybe Turkey, but, you know, Turkey's not in the news that much, and not like Iran and Syria these days. But no, it was about the dangers of frying a turkey in your own home. Oh, my goodness. So we're going to have a little segment on that near the top of this hour. I brought some gear for it. I have fire gear here. Yeah, because they showed a video of a turkey catching on fire and burning down someone's porch deck. And full flames everywhere from roasting, not roasting, but deep frying a turkey. So I'm going to don a fireman's hat and some Nomex gloves, and we're going to tackle the subject of cooking a turkey terror style. That's right. That's all coming up here. And we do have Paul Craig Roberts joining us now, and he's here to talk about trickle-down tyranny and some of the other topics. Paul Craig Roberts is one of the most prolific and, in my opinion, one of the most brilliant political writers, if not the most, of all time. I'm a great admirer of Paul Craig Roberts, and we publish many of his stories, in fact, on Natural News. Paul, are you with us? Can you hear me?
Yes, I hear you, Mike, and I want to congratulate you for trickle-down tyranny.
Well, thank you, Paul. That really means a lot to me coming from you. I've admired your writing and your analysis for many, many years. What is in your mind of what's going on today, especially following the debates that just happened last night?
Well, you know, there's only one candidate for president. That's Ron Paul. The rest of them are a bunch of idiots. They're all trying to outdo one another in starting World War III. I've never seen such a collection of dopes in my life. I mean, and one of them, if not Obama, is going to be president.
Yeah, that's pretty scary, actually. I completely agree with your assessment there. It's like they can't read. It's like they think that the Bill of Rights must say at the very top, this does not apply if someone mentions the word war. Yeah. You know, there's no exception to the Bill of Rights. What do you say?
No, of course there's no exceptions. You know, it could just be that they're all bought and paid for by the military security complex. You know, Eisenhower was, what, a half a century ago, wasn't it, that President Eisenhower warned us in his farewell address at the end of his second term that American liberty was in danger from the military security complex. And so I believe that could be what we're seeing today. The takeover is so total that unless you're a complete shill for the military security complex, you can't even run for office. I mean, look at Obama, for example. You remember how excited everyone was about his election? You remember the massive numbers of people that went and sat in the cold for his inauguration, and many of them were miles away.
Oh, he was like the second coming of Christ to some people.
You know, it was an amazing. The country has never seen an outpouring of support for a president of that magnitude, ever. And what did he do? He pissed it away.
Well,
he started another